Good morning, everyone. I'm Don Zavis, National Sales Trainer and Sales Coach and International Keynote Speaker. I want to welcome you to our first 2021 edition of our Speaking of Sales interview show. And we have an illustrious panel here that are with us today. And I don't think that anybody can't notice the beautiful Arizona Wildcat Stadium in the background. So that certainly is going to come into play. So I want to introduce you to the people that are going to be joining us. We've got Enrique Feldman, a business trainer, coach extraordinaire. We have Bruce Grant, who's a representative of CBiz Benefits. By the way, Bruce, as I mentioned in a session we did earlier, probably has forgotten more about group health insurance than I'll ever know in my life. My partner in crime, John Waechter. I'm Don Zavis. And we have Adam, who is here from the Arizona Sands Club, which if you're not familiar with a private club environment and you're in sales, I'm going to strongly encourage you to consider that. And we've got some great questions, great panelists here. But Adam, why don't you tell us a little bit about the Arizona Sands Club? I mean, obviously it's beautiful, and thank you for allowing us to be here.
Yeah, of course. This is a great project that Club Corp and the University of Arizona undertook this past year. Club Corp is the parent company of the Arizona Sands Club. They own and operate about 300 private clubs throughout the country, and those range from stadium clubs like we're in right now to golf and country clubs and golf courses, and even city clubs that are in some of the major metropolises in our country. But this space was built in 2013 as a way to get the football team their own space, but also as a major renovation project for the north end zone. So this is about a $72 million construction project. However, this space up here was underutilized. Outside of the 6 home football games a year, there was not any activity that happened up here. And so one of the University of Arizona athletic staff took a trip to our sister club in Baylor, saw the concept, saw the idea, saw the layout, and thought it'd be a great opportunity for something at Arizona Stadium. Went through the motions, but this by far has been an amazing project. So this is a $4.5 million renovation of this space that turned it into a fully functioning bar and restaurant. On top of it, we're also a social club. So it's been a really interesting time, to be honest, opening a club during a pandemic to start a football season inside of a football stadium has provided a lot of challenges. But we had aggressive goals last year. We took the right approach, very community-based. We had projections for 500 members for between October and December, but we blew that away. Ended up getting around 720 members of the club. The goal is to get around 1,500 to 1,700 eventually by the end of the year. But we think we have something good. We feel like we have something that is needed in the community, a private space, a space to conduct business, a space to meet others and network and generate business, but also a place that's founded in community. Right, we want this space to be a reflection of our community. Everything from our membership to what we provide service-wise, it's all local. And so we feel like we're on to something here, and we're looking forward to a full year of operation. And thank you guys for being members of the club and for helping to promote the Arizona Sands Club.
Absolutely. And by the way, in full disclosure, myself, John, as well as Bruce, our members here, we just had a wonderful networking group, our first one of the Arizona Sands networking. We just finished literally before we did this filming. And I think that the topic we had talked about was the idea of being open, right? Be safe, but be open, because now there's, even though the pandemic rages, I heard that Arizona was the #1. I think it was like, in all the United States.
In the world.
In the world. So, you'd think if you ever needed a justifiable reason to crawl into your hole and not want to come out. But, we're really promoting the idea of be open. Be safe, but be open. And that's kind of the idea that's out there. I mean, I'm sure human resources, what's happening in the human resources world about all things COVID?
Well, it's a big struggle right now.
We'll pull the mic up.
There was just a survey out yesterday about whether employers are going to mandate COVID vaccines for employees or not. And right now, most employers still haven't decided what they're going to do with that. But yeah, it's a big challenge when half of your workforce is working at home and maybe some of them are hardly working.
Unfortunately, I think that's probably the reality. The productivity, I think, has taken a big hit nowadays because of that specifically. But I do think at some point in time, and I'm sure the human resources world, do you ever see, people going back? Now obviously we're salespeople, right? We're out in the world, right? we make our money out, out in nature, so to speak. Do you ever see that, the world kind of going back to where it was in 2019?
Not yet. At least our company's not allowing outside visitors in, and I think a lot of other companies are like that too. So as of yet, it's really no change from 3 or 4 months ago.
It's amazing. You'd think the hit that the world's going to take because of this is just amazing. So let me pose a couple questions to you, and you were kind enough to get involved. And Enrique, I know a couple of these are going to be your kind in the business management. Obviously in member, let's say, member experience, I see everything as a sales position.
Yep.
I have a stand view, John and I share that. Every person in the company has one goal: improve revenue. I don't care who you are, what role you play, every person has one goal in every single company on the face of the earth: improve revenue. If what you're doing doesn't improve revenue, you're probably not going to be needed. So, now you're in a sales position,
sure,
which I'll call it. When were you first aware of even a career in sales? Well, everybody has their "I cut lawns and shoveled snow" story. When did you kind of think to yourself, yeah, sales might work for me?
It's been an interesting journey, that's for sure. To be honest with you, I never envisioned a career in sales. The first time I really got involved in sales was actually when I was in college. I was a front-end coordinator for Dick's Sporting Goods. Great college.
I love Dick's Sporting Goods.
Yeah, great college job. But I managed our cashiers. And so the relationship aspect, the customer service aspect, getting to know everybody was a big part of it. But for some reason, I just took ownership of the only sales opportunity that I was allowed to do as a cashier in the front. We're selling those warranties and those.
Extended warranties.
Yeah, the extended warranties. I don't know how I did it. I don't even know that I necessarily was selling the right product, but I think it's really a hard thing to say, but fake it till you make it in sales, especially when you're starting out, is the best way to do it until you get confidence. And I think once I started to understand more about what I was trying to do, and I gained that confidence in what I was talking about, that's when things opened up. But it really wasn't until I moved back to Tucson and started working with Golden Eagle Distributors, who was the local Anheuser-Busch distributor here, where they were constantly pushing me to further my career, and I ended up becoming relatively good at the sales aspect of it and went from working in marketing promotions to a career in sales that has spanned the course of 15 years. And looking back at it, I didn't realize it was happening at the time, but I can easily attest the growth, my career growth, and everything I am and being here right now to the skills and the detail, the attention to detail that I learned working for a beer distributor. And that has kind of transitioned over into my professional career as well.
And it's interesting, so many people kind of get into sales in kind of a roundabout way. I don't think there's anyone, I will say, except for myself, when I was young, being in sales was the best. And in my mind, that was the best thing to be, because we didn't work, right? I mean, you're in sales, you drive around all day and you take people to lunch and you don't really work, and not realizing what it was really like. So now you've gone through a series of jobs. You're here right now.
Yep.
All right. What do you think you've learned? I mean, now we're in 2021, and maybe you can kind of elaborate on this too, Enrique. What do you think the sales world is like right now? I mean, obviously it's so different. You don't have the benefit of face-to-face in a lot of cases, and everybody's kind of holed up. They're still not back at work. So even the people that if you did go out and want to call on somebody, there's a good chance they're not even there to be called on.
Right. I think, for me personally, and we talked about this a little bit earlier in our networking group, it really has made me focus more on relationships, more of the human-to-human interaction, as opposed to it being transactional. I want my conversations to become relational, right? And so I think that the individuals who are going to be successful and have been able to kind of leverage their relationships in the correct way, I think that is going to be the way of the world. I mean, I've never really, transactions are important, right? But in the beer industry, when you have 100 different customers and they all want the same things, it's about that relationship aspect, because we all do a number of things. There are always going to be competition. You're going to have 4 or 5 people that are doing the exact same thing that you're doing. But if you can take the time to create the relationships and actually take an active interest in what your customer is trying to accomplish, I think that is good. That's really what sets individuals apart. And again, that's really what I've focused on over the past year is, can I do the face-to-face stuff? No. But that doesn't mean I can't check in with someone, or I can't go grab a drink or grab coffee or or just have that person-to-person interaction so that you get outside of that forced conversation about what we're going to do and how we're going to benefit each other, and you focus more on that human-to-human interaction, which I think we're all missing right now.
Absolutely.
And so I think people moving forward, the ones that have really taken the time to work on themselves first to make sure they're healthy and happy, but then also take time to get to know and learn about their coworkers and their customers, those are the ones that are going to turn this pandemic into tangible dollars.
I couldn't agree, and I think relationships are right up your alley.
Yeah, I mean, and I also had no interest really in being in sales. I grew up with my dad, who was in sales and still is all his life as an interior designer. But for me, I didn't even like the idea of sales. But I didn't realize that what sales is all about is relationship building.
Absolutely.
And so when I left the University of Arizona in '97, I was on faculty. I left and then was hired as a director of educational training by ATI, the makers of Galileo here in town. And all of a sudden, I was kind of dipped formally into the world of sales. And I enjoyed it because I focused on building friendships. And for us, for myself and my business, 2020 was actually our best year, and 2021 it's just off the radar. We're in, because of the challenge.
Sure.
You know, we're now in 6 countries, doing business in about 20 states, and it's all about seeking to do the right thing and being authentic, because people can smell it if it's not. You know, and so authenticity is a big part of what we do and how I operate and how I roll. In fact, that's how we met.
Right.
With the Greater Tucson Leadership, I've donated 4 or 5 years in a row the keynote on Education Day, and I come in, we do the brain work, all this stuff, people have a great time. And that's how we met. It's how I met Ryan Shirley with Ultra Air, that's having me in now, and Daryl from Southwest Gas, who's now a client of ours. But I never went in and, you know, I just did my thing. And hey, I'm here, much like this morning, Don, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, be out in the world. That's one of the things that we talk about is you know, and I say it kiddingly as a sales training component, but every dollar you've ever gotten, you got from somebody else. And every day, somebody else's are out there, right? They're out in the world. Just go find them, right? Come to events like that we had. Do things that are going to put you out into the public eye. And I think it was interesting. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, in addition to that, which I agree wholeheartedly, is also find ways to, whatever your weaknesses are. So if you're not very good going Facebook Live, or if you're feeling uncomfortable doing Zoom sessions, hey, wake up. Because, I mean, our work right now is hybrid live. I mean, not much live, but it's all online.
Right.
And will things go exactly to where they were? I have no idea. So we're helping our clientele and our partnerships be ready for the live someday, but also prepare for hybrid right now.
Sure.
And, you know, what about having unlimited business?
Yeah.
Anywhere in the world.
Anywhere in the world.
You can now, I mean, I didn't think 2 years ago you'd ask me, would you be in India? I don't know. I'm not really thinking about India. I am today.
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, I was telling John, we actually have our YouTube site. So if you go to Don Zavis on YouTube, we actually have a gentleman that regularly watches my YouTube videos from Bhopal, India.
There you go.
I didn't even know I knew where India was. I didn't know where Bhopal was, right? But it's amazing the reach that you have. But you mentioned also something, as well as you did, Adam, about personality and making these relationships. And in some cases, people might be uncomfortable on Zoom or uncomfortable in front of a camera or with a microphone in their hand.
Yeah.
One of the things that John provides is an assessment through Predictive Index. Can you kind of do a 30-second Predictive Index pitch?
Sure. Basically, what Predictive Index does, it uses workforce analytics to give everyone an idea of how their brain is wired. And I'm really interested to learn more from Enrique about his program later in the month.
Sure.
The certification.
Yeah.
I'd like to really
I'd
like to hit you up on that at some point in time to see what that's all about. But getting back to so some of the behaviors that I've grown to not like in our environment, we circle back to the opportunity here at Arizona Sales Club. And because it is a social club, but it's also a club that's intended for business. We've all been to the social network evening events all over town for years and years and years, and they ended up being just really you see the same players, and you talk to them for 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, and then you have a beer, and then they get half skunked. And
How do you feel about this? And how do you
you
feel
know,
about this?
and so when I saw the opportunity, when I learned about Arizona Sands Club, I saw an immediate opportunity to change my networking mix.
And now, to be honest with you, John was our very first customer on day one, October 1st.
Really?
Yep. In the lobby about, 30, 40 minutes before we were ready to open, just pacing a lap in the lobby, just chomping at the bit to come up here. Because as he explained to me, he's been cooped up at home.
Right.
And to have a space where you can just come hang out and not have it be anything outside of what could be your living room.
I fully agree.
Is a good opportunity.
Yeah.
And we've really, hit home on that. We have about 10 to 15 members on a daily basis who come here and use this as a second office, and that's really what.
Absolutely.
And again, it gets back to this kind of new way of doing things. I think traditional office-style environments it could be slow to get back to, and that's why these co-working opportunities and opportunities to get outside of your house are going to be so important.
You know what, and here's a question for everyone to think about, just to consider it. And I love questions as opposed to statements. I'm a big fan of questions. So what would happen if we intentionally chose not to go back to exactly what it was? Like, I haven't had a physical office since the year 2000, and nor do I want one. Right. So right now my office is right here. Later today it'll be down that way about 20 minutes, and then back over there. And I have a home office, but I think adversity can be our ally. It can help reset and help us reinvent who we are and how we roll and what we do.
Yep. One of the things you touched on that struck a bell with me is, I think one of the things that Don and I make a point to teach in our sales training is to make quick work of your weaknesses. So you mentioned if you're uncomfortable with Zoom or some other hybrid element, part of what we teach as a strength is to make quick work of your weaknesses. In other words, just step into the fire, learn it, whether it's Facebook Live or whatever it is, and the relationship side of that, if you use a networking community correctly, then we talked with Sean Campbell about how he's going to be a resource, and we talked to a million people today about all their resource capacity, and it's. I mean, if we just do it and stay focused on those relationships, we can all get a lot of stuff done very quickly.
I couldn't agree more. Bruce, I was going to ask you, at least I hand over the mic, because I actually came into the club through John, but I wasn't aware that you were here. What made you decide that this makes sense? Obviously, there's a dollar value involved, and most people kind of are shying away from spending any money at this point in time. It's all things pandemic. What brought you here?
Well, actually, John told me about it, and
we're going to put John on the
everybody's here because of John, right?
And but I'd had very similar experiences with other networking things as John had. In fact, that's how I met him and saw him a lot. And then when I came up here, I was just blown away. And the food here is fantastic. The happy hour is fantastic. The amenities are fantastic. And for the price, it was, and the views are great. And for the price, you just can't beat it. And now with all these networking opportunities, I think it's going to be the best money I ever spent. Sure.
I feel like I'm at ESPN, right? With the helmet in the background.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting because you mentioned about the best money. I see these as investments, right? Most people maybe look at, what they do in terms of cost, right? It costs me X amount of dollars to be involved, right? Whether it's a, LA Fitness or a gym membership or something. And I guess if you look at it like that, it's always going to be in the negative side. If you look at it as an investment, right? By being here, what opportunities can you present in front of you? Or if you have a LA Fitness or some kind of health club, and you utilize it, what do you get back in terms of your overall health benefits? So I think that those are some significant ideas to look at, so it's not a cost. It truly is an investment. And ultimately the investment, if worked properly and if you're diligent in it, you get back many.
No, and I agree with that 100%. But it's not just a dollar investment; it's a time investment as well. And one of the things that has really been kind of revolutionary for me, nobody knew me when I was selling beer, right? Outside of the bar industry and a few people that I interacted with in the community, but I really wasn't as community focused. But getting more involved in the community has really opened up my world, and it's how I've been able to network It's how I've been able to get to a certain point. It's how I've been able to meet people. And it's not just about showing up and networking. It's about getting involved in nonprofits, right? So we have a bowl game here. I'm on the planning committee for the bowl game. We talked about Greater Tucson leadership. That was my opportunity to learn about our community and get more involved that way. And I met a lot of great people. You know, you're a good example of that through that organization. I'm on a past president of a nonprofit that raises money for children's charities in Tucson. And on top of that, I'm a rookie centurion this year. So as I think about the last 5 years of my career progression, going from someone who didn't really know anybody selling beer to now sitting here at Arizona Sands Club with 700 people in my membership, coming from 3 years at the Tucson Metro Chamber where I was involved in all kinds of things from the political spectrum all the way down to basic networking groups. But to be honest, that creating that network and providing your passions to something is really how you're going to create relationships and how you're going to grow your network. And that, to me, is what I'm trying to bring here, right? Again, we want this to be a space you feel comfortable, but we also want this to be a community-driven space where we're not just meeting and gathering. We are doing things to better our community outside of this club. I think that's what makes me the most excited about this concept, but also most excited about the group we've brought in. I think our core membership base that we've seen already kind of understands that and wants to help us forward that mission so that we can all be better partners.
No, I couldn't agree more. Well, and by the way, you've all been, thank you so much to the panel, you've been very generous with your time. As we kind of close up today's Speaking of Sales interview session, I always like to end with a question because, you know, we're going to be doing this, you know, on a monthly basis. So Adam, I'll start with you and then we'll go on to the other esteemed members. What do you think the future in sales holds? I mean, I recognize we don't have a crystal ball, but I think we've been kind of around the block enough that we can kind of start to offer some suggestions to our listeners about maybe what they might want to prepare for. So what do you think the future of sales is going to look like in 6 months, a year?
Sure, and I kind of touched on this earlier. I think it's really going to make people focus on the relationship aspect. I think with the way COVID is and the way the environment we have just nationally here in general, I think people who take that time to get to know each other, take that time to kind of put all their cards on the table and have it be more of an open conversation, not just about business and more about life. I think those are the ones that are really gonna thrive and pivot. And I think if more salespeople thought more or less about transactional relationships and more about that relational aspect, I think everyone will profit in the long run. And I feel like that I'm hopeful that that's the way that the sales industry and good sales reps are gonna pivot to moving forward.
I couldn't agree. In fact, we have an adage that says people don't care what you know until they know that you care. So I think that's great. Bruce, I'll pose the same question to you. What do you think the future of sales looks like?
Digital. And I'm not a big digital guy, so I've got to get on the shtick. But our company has come out with all sorts of digital communications and ways to hold Zoom meetings for employees, and it's really gone totally online. And if you're an old timer, that's not very good.
I'm an old timer.
But we've got to get on the shtick and catch up.
No, that's perfect. Enrique, let me ask you the same question. You know, bringing your years of experience, what does your crystal ball say for the next 6 months?
Well, I agree completely with what Adam said. It's relationship based for sure. It's digital, and I will say the same things that make us either very successful or not pre-COVID will be the same exact things that will make us during COVID and after. In other words, the way in which we deliver a Zoom. You can have, death by PowerPoint or Prezi or whatever you use, right? Yeah. So I do use Prezi and I use a lot of really strong imagery, but I go then back on camera a lot. That's a simple technique because then they can see your inflection, right? And then how we speak, our inflection, do we really listen? Do we embrace the silence and there's a lot of it online when you go, so what does everyone think?
Sure, yeah.
And then the chat box, cricket. So how do we handle that?
Right.
Do we just keep talking? Well, probably not the best move, but we have to deal with it in some way. I know you're thinking, can't wait to see what you type, we can do that, but it all comes back to what you said. It's relationships, and organizations that are really thriving today, they were thriving before and after COVID for the same essential reasons, that people really believe that they care. They know they care. So I think the future will hold exactly that which we envision. So the future will be very different for one person versus another person.
I couldn't agree more. That was a great takeaway.
Very true. I think
Professor Waechter.
Well, at the source of all of that is going to be, at the source of the relationship building is going to be really, really genuineness and how you convey that genuine concern and care for your potential clients and prospects. Those are the people who are going to be the most successful. Focusing on asking the great questions rather than talking over people. Get people to respond to divergent concepts and divergent questions, and making sure that they understand that their contribution to the conversation is very important.
Yep. Yeah, it's interesting. The spin I'm going to put on it is more of a message of hope, because this is what I believe is going to happen. I believe that even though the digital world, I agree with Bruce, is never going to go away. My message of hope is it's going to come back and go live, but it's still going to maintain now this digital presence that it started. And I'll give you a great example. I look at my favorite rock bands that are out, right? And the ones that are now going to take up touring, they're going to be doing live touring, right? So you're still going to be able to buy a ticket, you're still going to go in the arena. But these live concerts are now going to be Zoomed or Skyped for a cost, right? We're not doing it for free. But now they're taking advantage of the digital market as well. So if you want to physically go experience your heroes, on the stage, you can do that, right? Mm-hmm. But if you don't want, and if you're totally okay with sitting in your living room and just watching a live concert, you're going to do that. It's going to be a hybrid. Now, we've been doing a hybrid, John and I, for literally with Simona, our wonderful videographer, since 2016. Our Friday sessions have always been live, but they've also always been Zoom. So we kind of, I'm going to pat ourselves on the back, we were at the forefront of what I believe people are always going to be doing. So you could have a live event that people can be there and pay for, but you could also have a Zoom event, which includes, by the way, I have a nightclub that I have a relationship with. They are literally, once the nightclub opens for regular full-term nightclub, they're also going to have Zoom capacity where you can kind of bring that nightclub into your home, and with sense around and the music and the activities, and you could have your own party in conjunction with the party going on.
The new barnstorming.
Yeah, so my message of hope is going to be we're never going to leave the digital. I think Bruce is dead on in that. It's always going to be there, and it's always going to expand. But now it'll be a combination. They'll take advantage of the live for those that want it. For those that want it digital, they're going to be able to get it, but it's even going to be more interactive than just maybe watching a screen.
And one can lead to another. So I'm already experiencing that.
Absolutely.
I'm already getting booked for live stuff like in June and
Absolutely.
September, based on the relationship we started with online.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but and also, to your point too about be open and be safe.
Yes.
Just be smart about things.
Yeah.
There is a way to get back to some semblance of normalcy.
Absolutely.
But everybody has to be on the same page, and that again, it gets back to that relational aspect. Just gotta care about your fellow man a little bit and bring it back. But there already has been Zoom fatigue, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And so a space like this and an event like you guys put on this morning, if done correctly and gotten back to, or done in a safe manner, we're going to get back there.
Absolutely.
But I think it's going to take some time. And the nature of sales, it's not a 9-to-5 job, right? You need to be here early. You need to stay late.
Yep.
You need to go out and do things on your own outside. Yep. And I don't think that's ever going to change.
Nope.
And the more you get involved and the more you find things that make you happy, the more you find people that kind of mirror your goals and what you want to accomplish, I think the better off you're going to be. And I feel like the space that we've tried to create here is going to be kind of that space. And I think that's really going to help all of us get back to feeling like A, we're part of the community, and B, we're providing value.
Yeah, it's normal again. So no, there probably isn't a better way to end it than those sentiments. So I want to thank Enrique for joining us, certainly Bruce for joining us, my partner in crime as always, John Waechter. I'm Don Zavis, National Sales Trainer and Sales Coach. And truly from ourselves, and certainly from the bottom of my heart, I wish you good selling. Thank you. Bye-bye.